bring in our legal experts for more on all of this. Randy Zellin is a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor, and Misty Marris is a trial attorney and legal analyst. Great to have both of you here. I'm going to start, Randy, with you because I want to talk first about this breaking news. This letter was just sent from Judge Juan Merchan to both Todd Blanche, who's the lawyer for Donald Trump, and Joshua Steinglass, who was the prosecutor in the case on the hush money conspiracy trial. And in it, it says, "Dear counsel, today the court became aware of a comment that was posted on the United States court system's public Facebook page, which I now bring to your attention. In the comment, the user Michael Anderson states, quote, 'My cousin is a juror and says Trump is getting convicted. Thank you, folks, for all your hard work.'" If this is proven to be true, how big a deal is this?
I've lived it. I actually had a verdict thrown out in a federal criminal case based upon finding out that at least one juror had prejudged the case and had been discussing it with other jurors. So what will happen here is maybe not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there will be a motion made by the defense because the criminal procedure law in New York provides for a motion to be made between the verdict and before sentencing, asking the judge to toss the verdict. And if you have credible proof that you do not have a fair and impartial jury, even one juror, the judge, in my humble opinion, is duty-bound to open an investigation, bring in each juror, swear them with a court reporter, and ask them questions. And if there is any credible proof that anyone had presumed the former president to be guilty, that verdict should be see ya.
The comment is labeled, it says in the letter from Judge Merchan, is 1 week old. I guess they have to find out if the person who made the comment, which was not, this person was not one of the jurors. It was a person claiming to have spoken to one of the jurors. That person, presumably, will also be called in by Judge Merchan?
The judge, it is the judge's courtroom. It is the judge's home. He has the right to conduct his courtroom and do the investigation as he deems to be appropriate. And you can bet that that individual, the jurors, they will be called in individually under oath. The judge may not let the attorneys in the room, but will permit the attorneys to offer questions, and the judge will decide ultimately what's appropriate. But the judge should conduct a full investigation and get to the bottom of this, because if this is a compromise, if this is a tainted verdict, it is not a verdict.
Misty, what's your reaction to all this?
Randy's 100% right, because the scope of the investigation could even be more expansive. So right now we have a comment. Obviously, the veracity of the comment has to be investigated. But the question is, did this juror, or any of the jurors, but this juror in question, communicate outside of the courtroom? Were they exchanging messages or speaking to somebody about evidence that never was in the courtroom or was in the media? This opens a wider inquiry into this verdict and could absolutely result in the verdict being overturned. So to Randy's point, the first step is to make this motion before the judge. If the judge does the investigation, holds a hearing, denies the motion, it could still be an issue for appellate courts. So it doesn't just die with the judge. It could be an appellate issue as well.
Right, because Judge Merchan was very clear to that jury. You are not to speak about this case to anyone else at all, not even fellow jurors, until it's time for deliberations. Okay, let's move to the Hunter Biden case. Randy, the defense called Naomi Biden. Then they took sort of an unexpected break. Everybody thought they would continue further, but they didn't. They're taking the weekend to decide whether or not they will call James Biden, and most notably Hunter Biden himself. What are the chances he takes the stand in his own defense?
I think it really depends on the defense's view of what are we doing in this case. Are we playing to win at the trial court level, or are we playing to win at the appellate court level, or are we playing with house money because my father, if he doesn't pardon me, will at the very least commute my sentence so I don't go to jail?
President Biden's made it very clear just yesterday in Normandy, France, that not only will he accept the verdict, but he will not pardon his son if he's convicted.
He never said he wouldn't commute the sentence, though. There's a big difference. All commuting the sentence means you don't have to go to jail. I'm not saying you're not guilty. And I think the president parsing words there was a
He didn't
meaning
parse
behind
words.
that.
He was asked specifically that question.
But-
he wasn't asked if he would commute the sentence.
But he could have said, I'm not pardoning him, nor am I commuting the sentence. So that remains open. So I think that that's a big factor. If they're going for the win at the trial court level, they have to put Hunter on. He's got to say, on October 12th, 2018, when I filled out that form, I had just completed rehabilitation. In my heart, in my mind, I did not believe that I was an addict or a drug user. And it says on the form, are you? Not have you been, not were you.
Not will you be.
Not are you right now? And the answer is no, I wasn't. If they're playing for the appeals court or something else, then don't put him on. If you want to win at the appellate court level, if you figure you're going to lose at the trial court level, you do not put him on.
Misty, we've had a lot of family members from the Biden family, and it's been excruciating, to be honest, to watch all the testimony this week. It's just, I don't know anybody in that courtroom who hasn't felt awful about it. Talk about to have to go back all those years to the very dark days of that dark addiction, but. Nobody, we've had lots of contradicting testimony. Hallie Biden says, I think he was using right around that time. Naomi Biden says, I think he looked better than he had in years around that time. The only person who can say I was clean and sober that day is Hunter Biden.
You're absolutely right. He's the only person that can talk about his own state of mind at the time, which is why the defense is doing a cost-benefit analysis. It's risk versus reward. Putting him on the stand, of course, you fill in some of those gaps. The defense made a lot of bold statements in their opening. He was not using drugs at that time. He did not see himself as an addict. Well, there is no one that can prove that with the exception of his testimony. However, you've got to balance it against the risk. You open up doors that have been closed. Other parts of that memoir could come in. A lot of testimony about the laptop could be relevant. So things that aren't going to come into the courtroom otherwise could come in. So it is a great risk. And I think the defense attorney mentality is likely, I want to hang this jury. I want a couple of people who are going to look at these words and think, you know what, or think it's sympathetic. The drug addiction crisis has impacted so many people. Maybe say, I don't really think I'm going to convict and hang the jury. And I'm pretty sure that's what the defense is looking for. But I would doubt we're going to see Hunter Biden on the stand. Too much risk.
Yeah. Randy, they could they could talk about his memoir. They could, there's just so much there that could be kind of embarrassing for
I can
Hunter Biden.
assure you, Abby Lowell, they've gone through every page of that memoir, and they've determined whether or not there's anything in there that says on October 12th or on October 11th or October 10th or sometime in October, I was doing drugs. I agree with everything except the one thing. Drug addicts and being a drug addict, there is a certain level of sympathy. In fact, there are programs, even in federal court, where, but for my drug addiction, I would not be a criminal. But when you inject a gun into the situation, that kind of takes some of the sympathy out. If you steal, if you commit other crimes that are nonviolent, and it's like I was in the throes of an addiction, that's one thing. But when I go and I buy a gun and I'm parading around a gun being on drugs, you lose a lot of that sympathy. But again, the point is, am I playing to win at the trial court level or the appellate court level, or am I playing with house money because my sentence will be commuted?
Misty, I've got to ask you, I think today was, in a week of gut-wrenching testimony, today was the most in many cases. Naomi Biden was in tears as she left the stand. Hunter Biden was in tears as she testified. What do you think the impact of all of this is on the jury? Many of whom have said that they themselves have personal experience with addiction.
It's his daughter, of course. It's incredibly sympathetic testimony. She's up there talking about her father in his darkest moments. But I actually do think, from a prosecution perspective, Naomi Biden's testimony backfired a little bit against the defense in October. Well, then, and he looked great, and he was as good as he's ever been. And then she's confronted with text messages, which show his lack of communication. And the most sympathetic, and I wrote it down because it is so sad. I'm really sorry, Dad. I can't take this. Insinuating that this lack of communication could equate to drug use. And more importantly, timeline. She testified that she didn't see any drug paraphernalia in the car. This is October 17th and 18th. October 23rd, that's when Hallie Biden finds drug paraphernalia, and a car full of garbage. It's in his possession in between. So that really undercuts this defense timeline argument. So I agree, very sympathetic, but factually not too helpful for the defense. And I think why they scrapped their other witnesses and said, we'll come back Monday with a decision on Hunter.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Randy Zellin, Misty Marris, thank you so much. We will see on Monday what they decide to do. All right. And we will keep track, obviously, of this big breaking news on Judge Juan Merchan and the potential jury, a single juror talking about the verdict before the verdict was rendered. All right. In the meantime,